Hello, and welcome to episode 105 of Killer Hangover. I'm Bettina.
And I'm Beth.
And we're going to kind of cover a few states today. I have a very interesting true crime, very befuddling. Bethy, you have the paranormal and the drinks. What do you have? She's literally pulling this out of a bag. Okay, there is a bag of Skittles. By the way, I love Skittles. And a beer.
We are having a SkittleBrau.
Jawohl.
It has everything to do with my story, and I can't even tell you anything about this drink until we get to my portion.
Okay.
So
what do I do with this?
You can eat a Skittle and drink some beer. Well, not a Skittle. You can have a few Skittles if you'd like. And the bag of Skittles is the new kind. They brought the lime back.
Lime and the coconut.
I don't know if you realized Skittles exchanged the green Skittles. They made them like apple or something like that.
No.
A long time ago. Yeah. If you bought a Skittle bag like a year ago,
Okay.
the lime one was gone.
I haven't, but okay, I'll take your word.
So lime is back.
That's awesome.
But anyway, so you can have some Skittles and drink a beer. We are drinking a Hefeweizen, and I will explain the cocktail when it gets to my portion. So it's fun and it's exciting, so you have to stick around now.
And it's befuddling also.
And she's really breaking into the bag of Skittles.
I love Skittles.
I love Skittles. They're Nolan's favorite candy. And he calls them M&Ms. So he's always like, Mom, I need my M&Ms.
You probably have figured out that we are not virtual. We are actually together, which...
That'd be really cool if I handed you Skittles and beer virtually. That would be awesome. Hey, one day, you never know.
You never know. But I like doing it so much better this way.
Me too, Mom. Me too. Okay, so we have our snack. We have our beverage. Tell us a story.
Sit back and relax because
I will.
this is
I'm prepared.
absolutely nuts. Now, Beth knew more about this than I did. Of course, I'd heard of it, but I did not know the ins and outs at all. I think you did know a little bit more than I did for sure.
Yes, a little bit. Okay, so the paranormal portion, I knew I wanted to cover this, and it's a very broad thing. So I was like, oh, I have an idea. So I kind of gave it to Mom, put it in her little head, and
My little head.
What do you want me to say? Big head?
My little head. Okay.
So what does your little head have to tell us, Mom?
Wow. I mean, this pulled me in and for like a week. Normally I don't spend that long doing research. For a week, I just kept watching. I mean, there's tons out there on this. And every time I thought I was done, another video popped up. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get finished with this. All right, here we go. On February 16th, 1997, 21-year-old Patrick McNeil, a junior at Fordham College, decided to go out with friends. No big deal. This is what a lot of college kids do. I know I sure did. But it turned out to be a very big deal for Patrick. Patrick was described as a, quote, ladies' man. He was particular about his looks, but he was just as particular about his grades, which were very good. His dream was to one day join the FBI. On the night of the 16th, Patrick and his friends made their way to the Dapper Dog, a bar on Manhattan's Upper East Side. While at the bar, Patrick felt very sick and in fact threw up in the bathroom. He told his friends he was leaving. He'd take the subway back to Fordham. He actually, I think, maybe called somebody because he was waiting outside the bar for a while for a ride, but she didn't show up. Patrick began to walk. Okay, here we go with the witnesses. Some witnesses from the bar said that Patrick was highly intoxicated, while others said that he hardly had a drink. Yeah, that's like really contradictory. There were people who witnessed Patrick outside of the bar as he walked home. These people reported that Patrick was stumbling drunk, even falling down a few times. Witnesses also said that they saw a van slowly following Patrick. When he stopped, the van stopped. It looked so suspicious that someone wrote down a partial plate number. Unfortunately, they
wow.
couldn't get the whole thing. When Patrick turned on East 90th Street, the van followed him. And that's the last anyone saw Patrick or the van. On April 7th, Patrick's body was found floating near a Brooklyn pier about 7 miles from where he was last seen. The medical examiner ruled Patrick's death as undetermined. His alcohol level, according to the medical examiner, was, quote, more than a little, less than a lot.
I mean, that's just like the witnesses. Some witnesses said he didn't have anything to drink, and others said he was toppling over.
I mean, yeah, but this is an educated man. He's
I know,
the medical
that doesn't
examiner.
make any sense.
More than a little, less than a lot.
What the heck?
The official consensus is that Patrick was drunk, tripped over a rock or something, and fell into the East River and drowned. Note, you will hear this consensus a lot during this episode. Okay, I'm going to throw some wrenches in this tidy explanation of Patrick's death. 1. What about the van that was following him?
Right. So suspicious that somebody actually tried to get the plates.
Wrote down, exactly. 2. To end up at the East River from 90th Street, one would have to cross FDR driveway.
Wow, a driveway? FDR's driveway? Man.
Okay, I'm going to start over. To end up at the East River from 90th Street, one would have to cross FDR Drive, an expressway with fencing on both sides.
A lot more dangerous.
Something a sober person would have a great deal of trouble doing, let alone a stumbling drunk person.
Who's falling over.
Yeah. Patrick was found face up in the water. This is not how accidental drowning victims are found. They're usually floating. Dead man's float. That's why it's called that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Face down.
They're not floating on their back. There were ligature marks on his neck and wrists.
Okay.
Hello. Now get this.
That sounds like he drowned.
The body looked like it had only been in the water a couple of days. Where was he in the time between his disappearance and his body being put in the water?
And how long was he missing for?
A little over a month and a half. But his body had only been in the water a couple of days.
Well, could it be possible that it was in the water and he drowned and then it washed ashore somewhere and then it kind of washed back out to the water?
No. And could it be possible that perhaps the water was freezing cold, right? And so
Sure.
it would stop the decomposition.
Right, because
No.
it is February. And
No.
Oh.
Wasn't cold enough for that. Okay, this is also another question you're going to hear me repeat several times.
Well, okay, I'm ready.
All right. NYPD Detective Kevin Gannon was assigned to the case. He pretty much stood alone in saying that this was not an accidental drowning. The victim was stalked, abducted, held, murdered, and disposed of. He was joined by fellow detective Anthony Duarte and eventually by criminal justice professor Lee Gilbertson in the belief that McNeil was a murder victim. I'm not sure if it was because of this belief or something else, but Detective Gannon was eventually pulled off the case. Patrick was the first of many, some say over 100, young men suspiciously found in bodies of water across 11 states. There are commonalities in all of these cases. These are young, college-aged men, athletic, have above average intelligence, and most of these victims are Caucasian. They all leave a bar or a site of a party alone in what looks like an intoxicated state. And in a lot of the cases, a smiley face was graffitied near where the victim was found. Yep, I'm talking about the smiley face killers. I had heard about the smiley face killers, but didn't really know much about the case. And boy, did my research share some interesting things. I have to say that this is one of the most interesting cases I've covered. Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Because there are so many rabbit holes that you are sucked into and a whole lot of questions. I'm going to cover some more cases and then you can follow me down some of these rabbit holes. I'm not going to go into depth in these cases. Each could take an hour to cover all by themselves, but I'll share enough with you for you to get the gist of what may be going on. And of course, there's plenty out there if you want to research it. Todd Gieb was at a bonfire party with a group of friends on June 12th, 2005, The party was in a field close to his house in Casanova, Michigan. At some time during the night, Todd wandered off. It seems he tried to call some friends, of which one answered, "I'm in a field." End of call. The friend tried to call back, but all calls went to voicemail. Just a random, "I'm in a field."
Oh, man.
Todd was reported missing, and there was a wide search for him. 3 weeks later, his body was found in a lake near to where the bonfire had been. Toxicology report stated that there was not much alcohol in his system.
Not a lot, but not a little.
No, this one was more concise.
Okay. Jeez.
But there were 2 different kinds of antidepressants found in his system. Now, Todd was not prescribed antidepressants, so who put those in his system? The amount would have made him confused, disoriented, and stumbling.
Well, that's what I was going to say about the first victim is people said that they didn't see him drinking anything. Well, it kind of does all go together, even though maybe he was seen with one cocktail. Maybe there was something in it that made him stumble and fall down. And
Yep. And, well, I'll get into that, but that's not always tested. So the official consensus was that Todd went the opposite way from his house and ended up at the lake, tripped, and fell in.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to throw some things your way. The lake had been searched a lot during those 21 days that Todd went missing.
How big is the lake?
It's not super lake. It's not super
It's not
big.
a super lake.
It's not a super lake. It's a little lake.
Super lake.
You can see to the other side.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not huge at all.
So not
It's
a pond, not a super lake.
Smaller than a lake, but bigger than a
Wow,
pond.
you're just like, oh no.
Okay. When he was found on July 3rd, his body was in a strange position. His head and shoulders were out of the water, and he was just bobbing.
Bobbing? What do you mean? So he's floating upright.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of that?
No, that's weird. Why would a body do that?
It wouldn't.
But it did, so why?
I don't know.
But it apparently did, so how?
I don't know.
Did they have any explanation?
It was just...
So the first guy wasn't dead man's floating even though he was dead. And then this guy is just bobbing upright in the water.
Uh-huh.
But why? Is it the drugs that are in them? That makes something buoyant but something not?
The drugs make something buoyant.
I don't know.
Maybe clothes, maybe his... I don't know. His body had very little decomp. I mean...
That's weird.
Very little. And he was supposedly in this lake.
In July.
Yeah, for 21 days. Nuh-uh. Now, as you said, this was a semi-warm body of water in the heat of the summer. There would have been very little of him left if he had been in the lake the whole time. They did an experiment just to kind of prove their point. And of course, pigs have a lot of similarity with our skin, and the way that they decompose would be the way we decompose.
Okay.
So they wanted to see basically how, looking at the pig, how long Todd had been in the water. And then what would he have looked like if he had been in the water for 21 days?
So they leave the pig in the lake for 21 days?
Actually, they had several pigs. I think like 7 pigs or something that they were testing different stages. They would pick insects off of the body as also of the pigs.
Okay.
Todd had no insects on him.
Did they close the lake while these 7 pigs are just
This
floating
is
in
a
the
privately owned lake.
Okay.
They didn't have to close it.
Okay. Question answered.
Also, you know how lakes, when they get really warm, they kind of form kind of
that like mold,
green,
like green
sludge around
yes,
the
yes.
edges. Guess what? He had no green sludge on him.
But the pigs did?
Okay, now, listeners, I'm sorry if this grosses you out, but it doesn't gross me out because I love anatomy.
Congratulations.
But that pig that was in for 21 days.
The 7 pigs.
No, they would pull him out, day by day to test him, I guess.
Okay.
So the one that had been in there for 21 days, it was incredible because you know how they speed things up on the
show.
film?
Yes.
So it was a cluster of maggots, and then the next, there was nothing left of the pig. There was nothing left.
Ew.
Except bones.
Ew.
It was, well, it's nature, you know.
It's gross. But he was all there.
He was there. Totally. This all suggested that his drink was laced with the drugs. He was perhaps followed, abducted, held, killed, and disposed of. Oh, let me add that there was a smiley face painted on a tree near to where his body was found. And, this is creepy as hell. A smiley face sticker was found on his gravestone. Yeah.
Only his?
Only his. I thought that was creepy as hell. In Todd's case, there were the antidepressants found in his system. This is something else that many of these cases share. Most victims have a drug in their system, and many of these have the drug GHB. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name. We're just going to go with GHB. We know it as the date rape drug. This drug does not automatically show up in tox screens. A doctor or medical examiner has to specifically ask for it. So we don't really know how many of these victims had GHB in their system. Okay, we can just of guess. Also, it being a male, I think they would test more readily on a female.
Okay.
And a guy out drinking, he just got drunk and he drowned.
Interesting.
You know, where I don't know, maybe I'm just talking out of line here, but I think if this was happening to a lot of women, I think maybe they would have been tested.
Well, I'm sure it's a more common drug used on
women.
Yes.
Okay, a little bit about GHB. It is a nervous system depressant. It was originally made to provide sleep and pain relief for patients undergoing medical procedures.
Wow.
It was deemed unsafe and unreliable after test subjects had seizures, intense vomiting, and swung between being unconscious and then conscious and then back to unconscious.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
But how do people get this drug?
GHB found itself among athletes, something that I find crazy. I guess it stimulates the human growth hormone, which is known to reduce body fat and increase muscle mass. It is also said to speed up metabolism. You know, and there's, of course, different doses.
Sure.
And our body, I'll get into this later, but our body actually produces GHB. But it's like 10 milligrams or whatever. I'll get to that. So we do naturally produce this drug.
Okay.
And I should have looked into that. I'm sorry. I don't know how people procure GHB. But remember Patrick? He got really sick all of a sudden in the bar.
Yes.
He went and vomited.
Yes.
And then he was stumbling around.
Right.
Yeah.
But he wasn't tested for GHB?
He was not tested. No.
But Todd was, and he had it in his system?
Todd had the 2 antidepressants in his system.
Okay.
But
did they test him for this?
Well, they found the 2 antidepressants, and the doctor said there's no reason he would have taken 2 of these antidepressants. Basically, they do the same thing. So it just upped the dose, basically.
Which makes no sense.
But if somebody would have crushed it up and put it in his drink, It would have made him stumble and be
loopy and tired. And
Exactly. In the early 1990s, GHB became popular in the club and bar scene. Combined with methamphetamines, it would cause a euphoric effect. As I said before, the drug also causes unconsciousness with moments of consciousness, making it the #1 drug found in victims' assaults. To add to that, the victim has no recollection of what happened, absolutely no memory of the event.
Oh, that's horrible.
But I thought it was interesting how it came to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting that it's used recreationally.
Yeah.
Or for athletes, but taken at a certain dosage can really harm somebody.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I guess that's any drug.
I just thought it was interesting the effect that it had at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
So, September 29th, 2006 in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Lucas Holman, 21, went out with friends to a bar celebrating Oktoberfest. Lucas and a friend left the bar around 10 p.m., but somehow got separated. The friend turned up in the ER with a serious head injury. Didn't know what happened. Lucas was nowhere to be found. His body was found 3 days later, floating in the Mississippi River. Official consensus was acute alcohol poisoning and that Lucas had walked to the river and accidentally drowned. Now, this case has a lot of unanswered questions. Lucas and his family knew about young men drowning. There had been 7 deaths in La Crosse by this time.
7 deaths of drowning?
Yes, of young men drowning. There have been 11 altogether. So after
in that one area?
In La Crosse.
In the last, what, over like 10 years?
Over 2 decades, I guess.
Oh.
Well, since 1997, and then Lucas
2006.
was 2006. Yeah. So about 2 decades. But the similarities, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's so weird about this. Lucas's mother would always say to him, "Don't go near the water." Lucas' response would be, "I have no reason to go to the water. Everything we do is away from the water." And this was the case the night he went missing. The river was nowhere near to the bar or the route he would have taken home. Analysis of Lucas' body showed that he had only been in the water for 3 hours.
But he was gone for 3 days.
Police reports said 50 hours.
Huh?
Here I go again. Where the hell was he for the other 47 hours?
Yeah.
There were marks, bruises, and scratches on Lucas's body. These could be consistent with a body
fall or tumble or
with
something.
a body being hit and knocked about in the currents.
Oh, okay.
But that does not explain the boot print on his forehead.
What?
There was you could see it was bruised, but you could see that it looked like a boot print. Yes. Or does not explain what looked like defensive marks on his hands, wrists, and forearms. So the boot mark was like the front of the boot, not the heel, but the front of the boot. So it's not like he was stepped on or anything.
Like the toe.
It was like he was being held down. The boot was putting so much pressure on his head that he was being held down. His head was being held.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it had to been put a lot of pressure on his head in order for it to be bruised like that. Yes. Witnesses do say that Lucas got into an altercation with a band member in the alleyway behind the bar. Oh my gosh, I can say that. A band member in the alleyway behind the bar. The band member admitted that he and Lucas got into a scuffle because Lucas was urinating near the band's equipment. And
Ew.
he thought Lucas had actually peed on the equipment.
Ew. Why are you peeing inside of a bar?
Outside a bar. They're in the alleyway.
Oh.
I said it 5 times.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So they did get into a fight. There was a fight.
Yeah, sure.
All
Okay.
Right. Cadaver dogs were brought to the alley, and they did zero in on the van. But the van was never looked at or even taken in as evidence.
What? Because, they called it a drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was drunk. So they're not looking at this as a homicide where they're going to check all this stuff out.
So
she's shrugging. She's not saying anything. She's just shrugging.
Well, they did take pictures of the back of the van, and there were cases for their instruments and stuff back there in the speakers and stuff. And there was a white, what looked like a sneaker, but was kind of a mix between a sneaker and a boot.
Mm-hmm.
And they did all these, different, there's forensic footprint people. There's forensic everything, so this.
Hey, what do you do? I'm a forensic footprint person.
Well, they
they
investigate
you. It's just
prints.
What a job title.
And he actually narrowed it down to what shoe that was.
That's like the Ramirez case.
It's crazy.
How they do that is so crazy.
But basically they ruled the band out because that shoe that was there would not have made that print. So then they just let the van go, even though dogs. Now here's a little something that's going to kind of blow your mind. Okay, they pulled Lucas's body out of the Mississippi River. There were neon orange flakes on Lucas's sweatshirt. So there were some actually also on his jeans. And we're talking minuscule, like very, very small. Okay. Picked it up with, their
a magnifying spy
their
glass
special
things
that they use. So it's very, very small, but it was found in some crevices in his sweatshirt and on his pants. Okay. Now I'm going to blow your mind. Those orange flecks that were neon orange turned out to be nail polish.
Okay.
But Do you know that nail polish is actually what is used in spray cans?
Like graffiti?
Like paint spray cans. There was an orange smiley face, neon orange smiley face that matched the same color as what was on his sweatshirt sprayed on a tree.
Near his body?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Think about that. Okay, 2 more cases. I told you I could go on and on. There's so many cases. But January 19th, 2018, in Woodland, Pennsylvania, Tommy Booth was celebrating his birthday, bar hopping with friends. Surveillance video showed him entering the last bar he was seen at, but there's no footage of him leaving. Remind you of somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Brian
Schaefer.
Schaefer, who some think could be a victim of the smiley face killers.
Yes. We covered him in episode 94.
Right.
He went missing from the ugly tuna saloona. Maybe that will ring some bells for you all.
And he's still missing.
Yes, he is.
Again, there was a wide search for Tommy to no avail. Then 2 weeks later, he's found face down in the creek behind the bar. His death was ruled a possible drowning. Again, there are so many questions. The creek was thoroughly searched during these 2 weeks. We're not talking just one time. I mean, it was searched a lot. In fact, the day before the body was found, a man said that he searched that area. There was nobody there. He went up and down the creek. There was no body there.
So crazy to me.
There was what looked to be a drag mark in line with Tommy's head, as if he had been dragged by his feet with his face down. In fact, there was a great deal of sand or dirt in the victim's nose and on his chin. There were also very distinct boot prints right by the body. Where were these from? Police say that Tommy fell drunk into the creek. The creek froze over his body and then melted. Thus, you didn't see him before. A searcher that had combed that creek said, no way, that part of the creek did not freeze, and the body was not there the day before. Another interesting factoid is that lividity showed on the victim's back, head, shoulders, buttocks, and shins, indicating that Tommy had died on his back. So when you lay, after you die, when you lay in a certain position, wherever the pressure is, lividity shows.
Okay.
So it was his head, his shoulders, and
so he was
back.
lying on his back.
He's lying
somewhere.
on his back, but he was found face down in the creek. Also, there were parts of his body that were in full rigor mortis. Rigor that almost always...
That doesn't happen in the water, though, does it?
Yeah, it does, but rigor almost always dissipates between 24 and 36 hours after death.
So he had just died.
Well, within 24 to 36 hours, if not in the creek, where was Tommy the 2 weeks before his body was found? And yes, a smiley face was found graffitied on a wall by where the body was found. I'll add that the graffiti was covered up later, and another smiley face was found on an overhanging wooden beam.
I mean, you can argue, though, that a smiley face is just such a common...
I'll throw that out. On April 8th, 2009, William Hurley, a 24-year-old Navy vet, was attending a Bruins game in Boston with some friends. About 40 minutes into the game, he called his fiancée, Claire Mahoney, to pick him up. He said he was tired, wasn't feeling well, and didn't really know that much about hockey. He was going to walk out of the stadium and meet her in the front. There is footage of him walking out the door. He seems fine, and then all of a sudden, he doesn't. He walks forward and he looks real wobbly and unstable and like unsure where he is. Claire is not far away. It only takes her a few minutes, actually, to get to that appointed meeting point. William is not there. She can't really park anywhere, so she drives around the stadium. Maybe she had the wrong spot. She called William. He answered. And when she asked where he was, she heard him ask somebody, and then heard a male voice respond with 99 Nashos Street. William tells her before he hangs up that his phone is about to die. No problem. The address was at a turn on the next street, so we're talking about a minute to get there. No William. She tried calling, but the call went straight to voicemail. His phone must have died. Claire drove around for an hour, around the stadium, around Nasha Street, I hope I'm saying that right, but William was nowhere to be seen. William was reported missing, and a wide search was conducted. 6 days later, William's body was found in the Charles River, close to the spot he had asked her to pick him up from. The medical examiner ruled, as we've seen before, death by drowning, cause undetermined. William's mother, Lynn Martin, was not going to accept this.
Good for her.
William had very low alcohol in his body. He had maybe a beer at the game, maybe, but he did have 18 micrograms of GHB in his system.
Oh, wow.
So, as I said, we produce GHB naturally up to about 10 micrograms. So 18 micrograms is indicative of him having been administered the drug. William had also suffered blunt force trauma to his head, left eye socket, and back of his leg. According to forensic pathologist Dr. Elizabeth Laposada and underwater forensic investigator Rhonda Montz, William's injuries could not have happened with a fall. He would have hit his nose, chin, or cheekbones, anything that's
your
prominent,
face, right?
But not an eye socket. The injuries had to have happened while William was still alive because of the injury's full contusion. It looked more like William had sustained the injuries just minutes before the contusion appeared. Okay, so it's like he wasn't dead and it happened, when he hit something or whatever. It happened just minutes before, like, the contusion was there. Like he got punched in the eye. Let's just say he got punched in the eye, and then the contusion would just take minutes for it to appear. Okay. I hope I'm explaining that right. Another thing that confuses the scenario of an accidental drowning is that William's body was found upstream from where he said he was.
Well, that doesn't make sense at all.
So his body would have had to go against the current of the river.
Okay, that's a big tell for me. That's weird.
No way. The placement of his body does make sense if his body was put into the water further upstream. I can't leave out William's cell phone. It was found smashed close to 99 Nashow. Like it was an intentional, like it had been ripped apart first.
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, it's like a flip
phone.
It had been ripped apart it didn't look like it had just been run over.
Okay.
It looked like it had somebody had tried to rip.
He got off the phone. They
apart.
took the phone and broke it right there.
I guess there are some, but then
she was right there.
She was right there.
Make sense. Yeah.
Maybe they weren't even at Nashow.
Right.
There are some questions I would love to ask about William's case as well as others. My main question is, was there water in or around the lungs? Now, these are my questions.
That's curious because all of these have been, all the medical examiners have just called it.
They called it drowning, but
Okay.
undetermined as to how they drowned.
Yeah. Or how much water was on the lungs. Because they could have been knocked unconscious and then just thrown in there. But
they still would suck water if they're unconscious.
Right.
They're
That's
still
what
breathing,
I mean.
So that's my question, and I couldn't really find it anywhere.
Okay.
I'd like to kind of know more about that.
Or if that even matters.
Well, it would, because it's a big indicator as to whether the victim was killed before entering the water or if he was still alive when he entered the water.
True.
Okay, some of this just totally frustrates me.
So there's all of these men.
Okay, I'm going to sum it all up here for you. Since 1997, hundreds of college-aged men have died of undetermined or accidental drowning across the U.S. These men are all athletic, intelligent, and well-liked. They were all with friends at a bar or party and suddenly left, either alone or with a friend, but then was separated from that friend. We do not know what % of these men had GHB in their systems because they weren't all tested. But because some were tested, we do know that some of them did, in fact, have a higher than usual amount of GHB in their system. There's also the fact that even though some of these deaths, like the ones I covered, seem suspicious and at the very least have a lot of unanswered questions, many police departments have closed their cases. Kevin Gannon, Michael Donovan, and Anthony Duarte, all retired NYPD detectives, and retired criminal justice professor Dr. Lee Gilbertson started to investigate these cases. They have forensic experts help them in the cases and end up having more questions than when they went in. Mainly, this does not add up.
No.
Everything. This does not add up. Why is this not deemed a homicide and being looked into? So if this is murder, who the heck could be doing the murders? The team of retired detectives and, quote, doc, don't think it is just one serial killer. They believe that there may be a large group, maybe even more than 1,000 people, who coordinate using the deep dark web. This large group is perhaps broken up into cells in different cities, and the cells would consist of maybe 12 to 15 people. The murders themselves are done by more than one killer. Because of the smiley faces found in close proximity to many of these victims, they have dubbed this group of killers the smiley face killers.
What an absolutely terrifying thought that there's this gang
It's a huge
out there
gang.
that's covering your city, that a portion is covering your city. Like, what a terrifying thought.
Oh, I questioned my very intelligent future son-in-law, John, who has his PhD in statistics. What is the probability that these deaths are connected and that they are homicides, not accidental drownings? You know, his mind works different than mine does. So I thought maybe I'll throw this out to him. He had some really good responses. He said that given the similarities in the cases, it is unlikely to the point of impossible that none of these cases are connected. But it is also highly unlikely that all of the cases are connected.
So, say you have 100, there could be 50 of them that are the gang and 50 of them that are real drownings or whatever.
Right. Or maybe they are homicides, but they aren't connected, you know.
Mom, here we are again with the same thing we started with. Not a little, but not a lot.
There are so many questions.
Not all of them, but not none of them. Not a pond, not a lake. Oh my gosh.
This is actually what Doc and the team of detectives admitted also. As far as the smiley face killer theory, to be honest, I don't know about the theory, okay? I'm not totally convinced about it. I mean, to me, it sounds a little sci-fi type thing. I don't know. It just sounds too surreal.
But I am not the coincidences.
I'm not disqualifying it either. I mean, these are intelligent men that have come up with this theory. So they're not just grasping at straws. They have done a lot of investigating. But, as John said, humans are inherently looking for patterns. It's human nature. And is that what might be going on? Just human nature, we look for patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's a smiley face someplace, and then there's a smiley face in the next one, and all of a sudden we start looking for smiley faces.
Right. Exactly. And like I said, a smiley face is such a common thing. Like, you give a kid a piece of chalk,
He's going to draw a smiley face.
he could draw, yeah. And
yeah. And to go along with that, I'm going to throw in Occam's razor. I know it's weird, but which states that simplicity is always the best answer. For example, and I'm going to take this from conceptionally.org, quote, "You have a headache. Oh no, you might have the Black Death." Sure, it's true that one of the symptoms of the Black Death is a headache, but using Occam's razor, it is obviously more likely that you're dehydrated or suffering from a common cold or just have a headache, right?
right.
So simplicity is always better than the complex. With that in mind, could it be that smiley faces are just common graffiti tags in the country, and so it wouldn't be unusual to find one near a murder scene? There is really no way to prove that the cases are connected. So what the team of detectives and Doc are doing instead is looking at the cases one by one. Because what it all really comes down to is that in each of these deaths, a young man has lost his life. A family lost their son, brother, uncle, and there are unanswered questions as to how their loved one died. And that's what I think this team is really doing. Questioning these deaths, finding evidence, and bringing that to the police chief or DA so that the case can hopefully be reopened and investigated as a homicide, and the victims and families can have justice.
Have they had any success with that?
They have had a few cases reopened, but
Nothing's been solved
are
still?
running. Yeah, nothing's been solved. But it's like running into walls every time.
Well, I mean, I look at it. It's somebody leaving a bar found in a river.
Or body of water of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, there are deaths that happen, okay? People drown. They just do. But the similarities here, there's so many unanswered questions. If a body has been in the water for so long, the body will show that it's been in the water that long.
That's weird to me.
And there's so many. I just listed a few. There are so many cases that are like this. Where were they? Where were these guys? They didn't just fall in there. If you want more in-depth coverage of these cases I mentioned and how this team works together to help find answers, watch The Smiley Face Killers, A Hunt for Justice, Season 1. They are working on a Season 2, and it has like 6 parts to it. It's very interesting, and I am highly anticipating Season 2.
Where can you watch that?
Oxygen.com.
Okay.
And it has all of that there. I watched it for free, so... It doesn't happen with all the streaming stuff anymore.
Oh, gosh, no, it doesn't.
Very, very interesting. But there's so many videos out there, so much to see. I literally cut myself off after watching this last one because I think it just kind of tied everything together for me.
Mm-hmm.
And just watching more of it would just, yeah.
That's so fascinating.
It's crazy because I want to go along with the medical examiners and the police. I mean, there can't be a conspiracy for police to hide this.
Right.
You know?
But they're just following the evidence. Like all the evidence shows that this...
Well, I think they're just listening to the medical examiners.
Right. And again, the medical examiners are looking at the evidence.
And they're just, yeah, but are they? Because if they were, they would note that this body was not decomposed. This
true.
Body did not have flies and larvae and everything else in it that it's supposed to. So are they looking at the evidence?
Oh, that's weird.
And again, do all of these guys have water in their lungs? It just
Somebody answer, Mom, please.
Oh, it's just so frustrating. That's why I was like totally fascinated with this. So hopefully more cases. More evidence is being brought up and more cases will be opened.
Yeah.
Just for these families to get justice.
Oh, I can't imagine.
All right.
The end.
The end of that. I have to have a
Go ahead and grab a handful of Skittles there, Mom.
Skittles and beer. All right.
All right, Mom. Are we ready to move on?
I guess so.
Okay. I am not covering a paranormal story this week.
Okay.
It's... I don't know where it would sit on the realm of interesting, I guess.
I hope all our stories are interesting, but okay.
Prophecy, a prediction or predicting the future. Such a fascinating gift. Now, we all have heard of fortune tellers, maybe even been to one. I know I have. I've even bought a ticket or two for Zoltar.
No way.
Evidence shows that fortune telling has been practiced as long ago as 400 BC in China and Egypt. I mean, prophetic dreams and such have been portrayed in religious events and, all throughout history.
The Bible's full of it. Right. Prophecies.
Yes. Tesla, who briefly worked with Thomas Edison, suggested in 1909 that someday people would be walking around with phones in their pockets. In 1969, the award-winning science fiction novel Stand on Zanzibar, written by John Brunner, predicted a lot of things. The novel came out in 1969, but the story was based in 2010. It predicted DVDs, satellite news, legalizing marijuana, and even the president's name was Obama.
No.
Just 2 letters off.
What the heck?
In 1865, the novel From Earth to the Moon, author Jules Verne wrote about the weightlessness that astronauts experienced. Something that no one in that time period would have ever known. 1865.
Jeez.
He also predicted that there would be 3 astronauts on that first moon mission, and that Tampa, Florida would be the launch site.
What the heck?
Apollo 11 launched from Orlando, but
I know, but still,
that's
Florida.
close enough. The unsinkable ship, Titan, hit an iceberg and sunk, killing 1,517 people in the Atlantic Ocean in Morgan Robertson's Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, 14 years before the infamous Titanic sinking. I could go on and on. Now, are these predictions? Like, I'm sure since before we can even imagine, people were discussing how cool and how one day people would be walking on the moon.
Right.
Right? Like, you can imagine Egyptians looking at the moon and saying, how cool, one day somebody's going to be on the moon. You know what I mean? But the fact that the author believed astronauts would be weightless.
Right. And there would be 3. And it just...
And sure, Tesla, he knew science would advance. It keeps advancing. So yeah, people would probably one day have phones in their pockets.
Yeah, but still.
So there's one very famous predictor or group of predictors that has prophesized or fortune told for the last 33 years. And that's Matt Groening and his series, The Simpsons.
No. I used to watch them. I didn't know I was watching the future.
Hence the drink.
SkittleBrau?
Exactly. Hence the Skittles and the beer that I just, casually placed on the desk in front of you there. It's from season 9, episode 6, when Homer goes in and says, I'm feeling kind of low, Apu. Got any of that beer that has candy floating in it? SkittleBrau? And Apu answers, such a product does not exist, sir. I think you must have dreamed it. And Homer says, oh, well, then just give me a 6-pack and a couple of bags of Skittles.
Well, there you go.
Here we go. You have a family-sized bag of Skittles and some Hefeweizen.
With as much craft beer as out there, I wonder if there is a craft beer with candy floating in it now.
Oh, I don't know. But I will say that if you don't want to eat Skittles and drink beer or pour your Skittles in your beer, there is an improved SkittleBrau I found on this website, cocktailchemistrylab.com. It's basically a ginger shandy, 1 bottle of Hefeweizen beer, half a lemon, and 1 bottle of ginger beer. Squeeze the lemon juice into the glass, pour in the beer, add ginger beer to taste, and garnish with a lemon wedge and enjoy.
It sounds refreshing,
Well,
except for the ginger beer.
Yes, you love ginger beer. I preferred Skittles. So there we go.
I think it's a great idea. I prefer Skittles also.
Homer Simpson for the win. So yes, The Simpsons, predictors of prophecy.
That's like mind-blowing.
I thought this would be totally different. The Simpsons, an American animated sitcom. It follows the Simpson family, Dad Homer, Mom Marge, their son Bart, daughter Lisa, and baby Maggie, their family and friends in the town of Springfield. The show has been around since December 1989 and has aired 720 episodes at the time of this recording.
Honestly, used to watch it all the time.
I think it's like one of, if not the longest running cartoon or show.
Animated show.
Yeah, I think so. Matt Groening, the creator, has served as executive producer of the show since its beginning. And between the writers and the illustrators, there have been so many predictions, fortune telling shown in the show.
I can't wait.
I know. It's bizarre to think about.
Sounds weird.
So I'm not going to have time to share all of them because believe me, there are a ton of rabbit holes and ideas and theories and people are crazy. But I'm going to go with the most popular.
Okay.
I mean, this whole idea is crazy. So coincidences, predictions, let's just decide together.
Man, we're just riding on the coincidence and theme thing tonight,
We are.
aren't we?
We are. I'm going to share them in chronological order from the air date of the show.
Okay. Makes sense.
And like I said, it first aired in December 1989. The first one I'm going to cover, the first prophecy came only the next year.
Okay.
In 1990, season 2, episode 4, titled 2 Cars in Every Garage and 3 Eyes on Every Fish.
Oh, I think I remember this one, actually.
Bart goes fishing in the lake near Springfield's power plant and catches
Yes.
a 3-eyed fish, Blinky.
Yes, I remember Blinky. Yep.
And in 2011, in real life, not in Simpsons life,
Okay.
a 3-eyed wolffish was caught near a power plant
Where?
in Argentina.
Oh.
And I guess in the episode, Marge cooks up the fish and serves it to the mayor or something. And in Argentina, when this fish was found, they like all wrote in and made sure that people knew like nobody's eaten it. Season 2, episode 9, Itchy and Scratchy and Marge, aired in December 1990.
Wasn't Itchy and Scratchy like a violent cartoon?
It was the cartoon with the cat and like very violent cartoon. And this is what Marge is protesting in this episode.
Okay.
She thinks it's way too violent for children.
Well, it
and
was.
she demands censorship. And the show cleans up his act. And it's kind of funny because like it becomes like lame.
Exactly.
And Lisa and Bart are like, what happened to Itchy and Scratchy? But because of her great success in her protest, this group comes to her because they want to censor the traveling statue by Michelangelo.
Of
They
David,
want
yeah.
to, of David, yeah. They want to censor his
Cover him
private
up.
parts. And in reality, a replica of the statue of David was being unveiled in St. Petersburg, Russia, and residents asked to vote to cover up the statue, saying it would be a bad influence on children. They wanted to
for
put like an
goodness
ivy leaf or
sake.
something on him. Yeah. So again, are these just coincidences?
Right, but
Just-
that could be a coincidence.
I mean, this
that
is just
totally
the
could be a
tip-
coincidence.
The
Yeah.
tip of the iceberg. 1993, season 4, episode 21, titled Marge in Chains. Now, this episode has a lot. So not only does Springfield get the Osaka flu pandemic, in the show the virus comes from Japan, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
There's also a ton of rioting in Springfield.
Oh.
And because of the rioting, this truck full of killer bees is released. So in this episode, you basically have 2020 with COVID, the rioting, and in fact, in 2020, murder hornets made headline news in the United States.
You're right. You're right. I kind of forgot with all the COVID stuff. I kind of forgot about that.
The other thing from this episode was during the Springfield pandemic, their mayor Quimby pretends to be in his office when he is actually avoiding it all in the Bahamas on vacation, a little like Mr. Ted Cruz and his disappearance to Cancun
And the very
during our COVID pandemic. He admitted he was in the wrong. Season 5, episode 10, titled Springfield, it aired in 1993. In the show, the Simpsons version of Siegfried and Roy, Gunther and Ernst, perform with their tiger Anastasia. And for those who don't know who Siegfried and Roy are, they're the German-American magicians who performed with their tigers in Vegas.
Right.
So in The Simpsons, Anastasia the tiger goes crazy and attacks. In fact, in 2003, you have Siegfried and Roy and their tiger, Montecore,
Oh, that's right.
attacks Roy while on stage.
Mauls him. Yeah.
It was like a terrible thing. I guess there's an act where they put the microphone in the tiger's mouth and they tell him to say hello. And he bit onto Roy and wouldn't let go of his arm.
Yeah.
And they're like throwing chunks of meat at him and everything. And he ends up, Roy gets out and starts to back away. And the tiger, I did all this research into it because I wanted to see like what was really real.
Jumps onto him.
Well, he trips him. And he falls backwards. And after he falls backwards, and the tiger grabs him by the neck and takes him off the stage.
Can you imagine being an audience member?
No. Children, I'm sure. I mean, these are magicians. I'm sure people brought their children to
And
this.
Seeing that?
No. That'd be
You'd be
horrifying.
traumatized for the rest of your life. Oh my gosh.
He suffered, his spine, he resulted in massive blood loss and severely injured other parts of his body. It severed his spine. Now, apparently, though, he had suffered a stroke. Roy had suffered a stroke.
Okay.
And so he told people in 2004 that's why Montecore, I guess, saved his life. I don't know how he saved his life, but or was trying to tell him that he was going to have a stroke or that he had a stroke and was trying to
drag him to the hospital.
Or maybe he was reacting to, he could sense the stroke or something like that.
Well,
but
who knows? I mean,
yeah. Anyway, I think he's just trying to save his. I mean, as he was being taken to the emergency room, he was saying, "Don't do anything to Montecore." Like, he loved his tiger. So again, is this coincidence? This is a wild animal on stage.
Yeah, true that. So you
don't even know what a dog is gonna do.
It could have easily happened. Right.
So them writing about these people performing with tigers and the tiger attacking, like, is this?
Yeah. Okay.
The inevitable, but I hate to say that because you don't want these things to happen.
No.
Okay, so now we're gonna back up. I know I said chronological order, but I have to back up because this happened 3 years in a row. The Super Bowl.
Okay.
In 1992, titled Lisa the Greek, Season 3, Episode 14. The episode aired days before the Super Bowl, and the show correctly predicts the Washington Redskins winning. Now, this is a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
Right? The following year, though, the writers are like, wow, we're doing this. We are predicting the future.
Again.
So they aired the exact same episode, but they redubbed it. So they did the redid the vocals, and they again predicted correctly, and the Cowboys won the Super Bowl.
What? They did it again.
And they did it again in 1994. Exact same episode, just redubbed it with the proper teams. And again, in 1994, they guessed correctly, and the San Francisco 49ers won.
Crazy. Did they do any more,
then
or did they just fail?
Done.
Oh, they quit.
Yeah, they quit on a high streak. Like, they're like, okay, we're good. We're done. Should have kept going, though. That would have been really cool.
That would have been crazy.
Season 5, Episode 19. Sweet Seymour Skinner's Badass song. No, I'm not slurring. That's what it's titled. Aired in 1994. Bart brings the dog to school. The dog escapes through the vents, and you see lunch lady Doris making lunch with meat out of a container marked assorted horse parts.
That is so disgusting.
19 years later, in 2013, there is that huge real horse meat scandal in the UK, where horse meat was discovered in meat products. And I think Taco Bell, there was they tested the meat at Taco Bell in the UK, not in the United States.
Okay, yeah.
But, I mean.
Ooh.
And 1% of the meat there was horse.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't touch Taco Bell here.
How could they even do that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But did they predict?
Yeah, that's okay.
Horse
that
meat
one
scandal.
That's kind of weird.
Season 6, Episode 19, titled Lisa's Wedding, aired in 1995. Now, this one's really weird. Lisa goes to London, and I'm going to show you this picture, but you see the skyline, you see Big Ben, and you kind of see the London Bridge, and then you see the tip or the top of a skyscraper, and it's a very unique shaped skyscraper.
Okay.
Now, this skyscraper is called the Shard, but back in 1995, the Shard did not exist.
Wasn't there?
The Shard was not built until 14 years later.
And it looks like...
Yeah, here, I'll show you.
Holy smokes. And it's very unusual. It's just like a very skinny, pointy thingy. It's hard to explain. It is hard to
because
explain.
It looks like it has multiple sides. I don't really know.
But even the positioning of it is right on.
It's 14 years later.
Weird.
In the same episode, when Lisa gets married, she calls her mom Marge on her phone, but it's a talking picture. You see Marge. It's FaceTime, which doesn't become a thing until 2010, 15 years later. Okay, so you can argue that one. I mean, look at the Jetsons.
Right.
They did teleconferencing with the Skype kind of a thing back then. So, science we can only assume is going to keep getting
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird if you think about it. Why didn't she just talk to her mom on the phone? Right?
Right.
Why did they have her doing the face-to-face thing? Why if you think about it that way, it's like, why would they even think about doing a FaceTime call?
Because they knew it was going to be based in the future, but still, yeah. Why?
Why even think that way? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool anyway to just have a phone that you can call. Wow. Okay.
Okay, so here are the big ones.
Okay.
Season 9, Episode 1 aired in 1997, titled The City of New York versus Homer Simpson. I'm actually going to read you a quote from Al Jean, one of the original writers of The Simpsons. This is from an article in the Irish Times. It says, quote, "There is a frame where there's a brochure that says New York at $9 a day. And behind the 9 are the Twin Towers. It looks like 9/11. That one is a completely bizarre, strange thing." Unquote. Mom, here's the photo.
I gotta see this.
Here it is.
Oh my gosh. It's like the 9 and then perfectly put behind the 9 are the Twin Towers, making the 11.
The way it's arranged, okay, so the brochure is showing how to enjoy New York on the cheap, how to enjoy
Right.
New York at $9 a day. That's what it's advertising. So there's a big 9 on it. And then because it's New York, there's like a bus, and then it's not like there's the whole New York skyline.
No,
There's
not
not
at
even
all.
a skyline. It's
Twin Towers and the Empire State Building.
exactly. There's so many other things you could do that represent
Statue of Liberty isn't even
New
in
York
there.
City. Yeah, there's no New York City landmarks. It's the Empire State Building and the Twin Towers. And again, this aired in 1997, so the Twin Towers were a big deal, and I can understand that wanting to represent New York in a photo, but the way it's placed,
Yes, right after the 9 like that.
it looks like very eerily
9/11. Totally.
1998, Season 10, Episode 2, The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace. Homer becomes an inventor, and there's a scene where he's solving some equation on a chalkboard.
Mm-hmm.
And that exact equation, will 14 years later be confirmed as being the solution to Higgs boson,
What is that?
the God particle, which basically explains how everything in the universe has mass.
Is this an equation that, has kind of been floating around and just...
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people will argue. Some argue that this equation had been a theory for years as being the solution.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until 2012 that this was confirmed.
Deemed to be. Okay.
And again, this aired in 1998. And the writers, a lot of the writers on staff are mathematicians for The Simpsons, which I find really interesting because, I'm not like this great writer, but I prefer writing. So I would consider myself a writer, right? But to numbers, right? It's interesting that they're mathematicians. Yeah, but a lot of them went to Harvard for math.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. But when it comes to this is the equation on the chalkboard. This is the illustrators. This isn't even the writers at this point, if you think about it, on the staff.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right, give me more.
Season 10, Episode 5, When You Dish Upon a Star, aired in 1998. Ron Howard is pitching Homer's screenplay to producers at 20th Century Fox. At the beginning of the scene of the pitch, there is a sign with the 20th Century Fox logo, the big golden 20th Century Fox, on a billboard. And below 20th Century Fox, it says, a division of Walt Disney Company.
Wait, when was this?
1998. That's 20 years before the deal is officially made. It wasn't until 2019 that Walt Disney announced its $71 billion merger.
Was it even a rumor? Was it a thing?
That's
at
20
all?
years later. No.
Oh, that's just weird.
That's really weird. By the way, you can watch all of The Simpsons on Disney Plus because I know a lot of you right now are like, oh my God, I missed that show.
I'm gonna watch The Simpsons, see if
I
I can predict anything.
Season 11, Episode 17, Bart to the Future, was aired in 2000. Shows Bart going to the future.
Imagine.
Where Donald Trump was president.
No.
Yeah. Which wouldn't happen for another 17 years.
That's because I was even floored when he ran. So it was like, holy smokes.
And not only this, but look at this photo.
Oh, that isn't one photo. That is 4. And that is crazy.
It is like frame for frame Donald Trump going down an escalator.
Animated Donald Trump and the real Donald Trump
has
side by side.
Raised in the same way.
Arm.
Everything.
Going down the escalator, waving. Same exact one. And then up at the podium.
And some argue, I mean, there's an Oprah interview of him in the 90s when she's like, would you ever run for president? He's like, he was kind of flirting with the idea of running for president for a long time. And that probably
put it into their head.
Right.
Yeah. But still.
It happened 17 years later.
Those photos are crazy.
Season 20, episode 4, Treehouse of Horror 19, aired in 2008. It showed faulty voting machines.
Oh, boy.
It shows Homer trying to go and vote for Obama, but his vote keeps getting counted incorrectly. In 2012, this actually happened with that huge scandal and the faulty voting machines. I don't know if you remember that video, but the calibration was off on the machine, and every time the person voted for Obama, it counted for Mitt Romney. Whoops.
Whoops, that's right.
Season 21, episode 12, Boy Meets Curl, aired in 2010. Marge and Homer go to the Olympics and compete with Agnes and Seymour Skinner in the 2010 Olympics in curling. They go to the finals and beat Sweden. And in fact, 8 years later, in the next Olympics, the U.S. men's curling team goes to the finals and beats Sweden. Out of all the countries, Sweden.
Well, do a lot of countries do curling?
I don't know. What is curling? It's on the ice. I only know that from watching the Simpsons episode. What is it? Like they push it to see how like you want it to go not too far, but far enough. Right?
It's sort of like hockey, but in a timid way.
No, it's not like
it's not a
you try to see how far it can go, but not too far.
Oh, it's like shuffleboard. So
it's not like some contact sport that Homer and Marge are playing, but okay. Season 23, episode 22, aired in 2012. Lisa goes gaga. In the episode, Lady Gaga performs the halftime show for the Super Bowl. In a silver costume, she has these wires, and she like hangs above and swings across the crowd.
Oh, no.
This is exactly what happened in 2017. Lady Gaga performed the halftime show dressed in a silver costume with wires. Mom, look at this picture.
Oh, my gosh. They even have the boots right. They're both wearing boots. But, okay, I'm going to throw this in there. Maybe somebody watched The Simpsons and thought it was a really cool idea and Lady Gaga should do that.
Maybe. I would like to think Gaga watched it herself and was like, I'm going to do that one day.
I want to do that.
There are so many more.
Oh.
They predicted the FIFA scandal. They predicted a Nobel Prize winner. Is it all coincidence? Or are they really foretelling the future over there in their writing room? Some of these episodes are so old. So people are seeing them. Like, this is kind of a theory that they're so old that people are seeing them and then making them a reality.
Right.
So there is like you just said with Gaga.
Uh-huh.
I guess there was an episode where Homer's favorite baseball team, the Springfield Isotopes, are moving to Albuquerque.
Mm-hmm.
And he's protesting this. Well, in real life, like shortly after this aired, there was a new baseball team that was moving to Albuquerque, and they all voted to be named the Albuquerque Isotopes. So
again, it could have come from the show.
I think it might have. So are all of these things kind of like that? It just kind of happens?
Or is it that what John said?
Because
we're
of the
always
patterns.
Looking for patterns.
Mm-hmm. Executive producer Bill Oakley, when asked about all of this, he said, quote, "It's mainly just coincidence because episodes are so old that history repeats itself," unquote. Writer Al Jean said, quote, "If you make enough predictions, then 10% will turn out to be right," unquote. I mean, they've aired 720 episodes.
Yeah.
Like,
not all of them have come right.
So I've named some predictions that have come true. I'm going to name a couple predictions of things that people are waiting to happen because it aired on The Simpsons.
Okay.
In one episode, Homer invested all of their money on an underwater home. So, is this underwater living going to become a thing?
No.
Apparently, a Japanese construction company has proposed an eco-friendly underwater city, which would house 5,000 inhabitants and generate its energy from the seabed.
No way.
Just under the surface of the sea would accommodate commercial activities, housing, and hotels over 75 floors.
That would be scary, actually. That would be...
I was reading this article and looking at like the sketches and stuff, and I was like, I would want to go, but I wouldn't want to go. Like I'd want to go, but I wouldn't want to go. But can you imagine how resourceful?
No, yeah, you would have a lot of energy and all around you, basically. But what if there's a leak?
That's a big deal. Okay. In a futuristic episode, Maggie gets an ultrasound done by a robot nurse.
Okay, I could see that happening.
I can see that happening. And again, that's a science thing.
I don't want to see it happening, but I can see it happening.
Science keeps evolving.
Right.
So you've seen all the already robots that surgeons use now and everything. Right. So can you imagine walking to a doctor's office and this robot comes wheeling and is like, Elizabeth, I'll check your weight now. And they just have to like scan you. You don't even have to step on a scale?
No, you don't actually have to step on a scale. Did I tell you what happened at one of my doctor's office?
What?
She goes, go ahead and have a seat. So I sat down in the chair, like you do.
Yes.
And she goes,
calculated you on the chair?
It was a dang scale.
Ew, she tricked you.
I said, that is not fair at all. She just started cracking up. Literally, I sat in the chair that I sat in the whole appointment, and it was a scale.
Well, look at everything we had to do during COVID. I mean, doctors meet virtually now a lot. Oh, she made you sit in.
Well, no, it's just like when you go into the room, you sit in the on the chair, whatever. It's a scale.
That's hilarious. Okay, so here's a weird one. VR eating, so virtual reality eating.
Virtual reality eating.
There's an episode where I guess they wear the virtual reality glasses and they're eating fudge with feeding tubes. Apparently,
that's weird.
This is a real thing, though, not with the feeding tubes. But Royal Caribbean is looking at virtual reality eating.
How's that?
Say there's like an Italian restaurant on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
While you're eating, they have the Tuscan scenery.
But you have to wear those glasses.
I don't know.
Or would it be like that traveling Van Gogh and Monet thing where you are immersed into it?
I think you're immersed into it. But because the whole theory is like, say they serve you this gourmet meal in an alleyway.
It's not going to taste
as good.
It's
going to, right. So if you're eating this gourmet meal in Tuscany or out in Greece, you're eating real Greece food and you feel
real
like
greasy
you're
food?
Greasy food. Even if you're eating greasy food. If I was even eating greasy food in with Greece, that beautiful scenery, it would taste so good. But you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
As long as you don't have to wear those stupid glasses.
Or feeding tubes. That's weird. But in 2016, they had an episode that showed Homer with an Ivanka campaign button for 2028.
You never know.
We will never know.
Well, we will.
We will.
Yes, we will.
We will find out. So anyway, that's what I have for you. And here's the thing. Here's something I want you to keep in mind too.
Okay.
They write these episodes 10 months before they air.
So there's even more time?
So even that. So like say it was all in the media that Donald Trump was like, yeah, one day I'm going to run for president. Like this is like all over that he does an interview and he says that. Mm-hmm. But this was still written 10 months before that. So it's not like
before the Oprah interview?
But I'm just giving that as an example.
Okay.
So this is just, it's 10 months before this big event is done. It's still just weird.
No, it is weird. But you know what? Those writers probably are so in tuned to
they have to be
current affairs.
Well, look how successful that show is. It's still on now. It's a successful show.
Right. And they have to be, I imagine they have to be so in tuned.
Yeah.
To everything that's going
around. I'm sure they have researchers and everything too to keep it
like we do.
I wish.
Oh, I would never have guessed The Simpsons, okay? That one threw me.
I know. I wanted to start with Tesla and all that kind of fun stuff. But there's just, I get it. 10% of the time when you put 720 episodes out there, you're bound to be right somewhere. Mm-hmm. I get it. And like John said with the patterns, that's why when you said that I perked up during your episode because I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like mine. Again, we did it again. But yeah, just predicting things and fortune telling has always been super fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Whenever I see Zoltera, I will buy a ticket. I have to. Every time.
Oh, I did go to a fortune teller once. I don't remember anything about it.
Oh, I've been to one and everything she told me.
Really?
Yeah.
I think mine were so vague that it could have been anybody that went in there.
Well, that's the thing. I guess it is kind of the way you read into what they tell you.
Yeah.
But we were trying to get pregnant and we'd been trying for a while.
Oh, I remember this.
And I went to her and she was like, oh, don't worry. Don't you even worry. It's going to be before you even know it. Don't you even worry. What other questions do you have? I was pregnant.
You were pregnant. I remember that.
And didn't know.
With baby Aiden.
Yep. So, I don't know.
Well, you know how you're a sensitive.
Yeah. It is a gift. I do believe in like, I know you're rolling your eyes and like spirit guides, and I believe in that other realm and being a sensitive to that kind of stuff. I do. So maybe.
I don't know. We only use part of our brain. You know, we use a very little part of our brain.
And Simpson writers use all of their brains.
They use more than we do. Well, but it has to, I mean, like I said, the Bible has tons of prophecies in it. So it is a thing.
It's been around for a long time.
It's not this made up magical woo-woo stuff. I mean, it is real, you know?
You know, I do know. So I know this wasn't paranormal, but it was just kind of fun. And I don't even know. I fell across an article and I looked at Alex and I said, should I do this for the paranormal portion? And he goes, absolutely. You have to do this. So then when we were talking about episodes, I was like, okay, you have to do the smiley face killer because it's so broad. Because
I already know what I'm doing.
I have a very broad, it's not dedicated to a state. So there was another cocktail I was going to do.
Yeah. Besides the Skittles and beer?
Yes.
SkittleBrau.
It was called the Flaming Homer. Or it's also known as the Flaming Mo. Which is and it's a cocktail. It was accidentally invented by Homer and then it was stolen by Mo, and I think it was in like season 3 or something like that. But you light it on fire on the top.
Oh,
I really wanted to do this. It was 1 ounce vodka, 1 ounce whiskey, a 1/2 ounce simple syrup, 3/4 ounce creme de cassis, 1/2 ounce of blueberry schnapps, lemon lime soda, and then a splash of Bacardi 151 on top that lit on fire. And I was like, that drink sounds disgusting.
But I want to do it.
But I want to light it on fire and watch Mom be like, what? What are you doing? But I was looking and I couldn't find blueberry schnapps. I could find every kind of schnapps you can imagine except for blueberry schnapps. And then I was like, what the heck am I going to make with blueberry schnapps down the road? And schnapps comes in big bottles. So it's like,
it's not little bottles.
So it's like, I'm going to have this big bottle of blueberry schnapps forever.
It's probably pretty good though.
Oh, probably. But
I like schnapps.
If anybody wants to make that cocktail,
let us know.
Please do. Let me know.
Please tell us you did not burn down your house.
I mean, the first ingredients, 1 ounce vodka, 1 ounce whiskey. I mean, right there, you're golden. So
you'd be flying at the end of this show. Well, I'm happy you did the Skittles and beer.
I thought that'd be even more fun. Again.
And a lot easier.
And another surprise, because watching your face, you're like, what the hell is going on? All right, well, this was a fun one, Mom.
It was pretty crazy, huh?
Check out our social media. I'm going to post these pictures and go to our website for all of the resources, killerhangoverpodcast.com. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Killer Hangover Podcast.
Yes. Episode 105.
Email us your stories. What do you want us to cover? What is a prophecy of... Give us a prophecy of a future episode for us. I don't know. That was supposed to make sense, but it didn't.
Hey, by the way.
What?
We have 47 countries listening to us now.
Howdy, y'all. Wow.
47 countries. We just got Sweden.
What? Sorry, we beat you in curling. Oh my gosh. That is... a lot of countries.
I know. There's a couple I can't even
I
pronounce.
don't even know if I could name 47 countries just sitting here right now. That's embarrassing. Anyway.
Moving on.
Moving on.
We still have a whole world to get. So. But I thought it was pretty exciting. 47 countries. That's not including the United States.
Well, cheers to you all. That's awesome. Thank you
Thank you
so
thank
much
you.
for listening. That's so cool. Keep sharing us with your friends and your family. We love it. We thank you. Join us on Patreon. It's $5 a month. We're releasing extra episodes. We have some fun stuff coming out. We release episodes early for you guys. And we send goodies every once in a while.
Yep.
And if you can't support us financially with Patreon, leave us a rating or review wherever you listen or share us on your social media. We really appreciate it, guys.
I didn't know how this worked, and so now I do. But with the more reviews and ratings, we get bumped up when people Google
Simpsons Prophecies.
like they're going to be doing that because we just prophesized that.
Hey, they are. There's going to be so much Googling of Killer Hangover now. Prophecy.
But like, okay, smiley face killers. Then if we've got, the more ratings we get, the higher we pop up for people searching that.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for listening to us 105 times.
Oh boy.
This was a fun one, Mom.
Yeah, it was.
This was a really fun one.
It really was.
Cheers, Mama.
Cheers. Love you, kid.